Recording in progress.
Hey guys, I got the original sound for musicians on. I just discovered this that the talk I gave for the Conejo Valley Republican Women Federated was was backed up. I have it in two sections, but I'm not sure I did it as well as I'd like to. This is the public group here. The occasion for this backing up is that Facebook is taking down um, they're taking down the Facebook lives. So I gave a talk right before the lockdowns on the Facebook Live. Now here's the announcement I did on March 11th, 2020, 3:50 p.m. Wednesday. And I think it's important to document this because it's part of history. It's the background for TRP. It was a crazy time. Do you recall that time, 2020? What a crazy time that was. And also, this was one of the later times that I had with my grandfather, and Linda was there. Grandpa was, well, this was 2020, so he was 97, and we had a great time. And I'm so thankful that this happened this time. Friday, 13 March 2020. Um, Looks like there's 19 comments on this one, so I'm going to go ahead and clicky little wiki, get this on the screen. I also think I should probably screenshot this, so I hope I remember to screenshot this. Wonderful comments that I'm getting. Look at how supportive Maria has been this whole time. I mean, the lady still sends us money to go to Pepe's. Whenever we ask, she'll send $100. We don't ask very often because we feel like, I don't know, it's just weird. It's not weird, but look at, she's been there. Then she's a supporter. She still gives. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. They're both in our prayer group. Jean, that's one of my earliest students. I think my first year teaching. She was, I think 2006 she was in. I can't remember. I think it was Moorpark College. I think it was, I want to say spring. No, sorry, fall of 2006. Oh, maybe it was, yeah. I want to say 2000. It might have been 2005. Getting these comments here. And I don't know what this is. Let's open it up in a new tab, see what it is. Okay, this is the video. Okay. Let me go as well. This is me sharing the video on March 13th, 2020 at 1:33 p.m.
Well able to do that. Um, you don't recognize education, government, family, business, arts and entertainment, and religion for church and synagogue. And these are the areas that.
Okay, hold on. Let me get who was tagged in this. Okay. Jackie Turner. Angela Nardone. I feel like I was friends with her for a while. I'm not sure if she defriended me. Huh. Well, who knows? Here's some comments. 10 comments. Now, this is when I shared it. Tamara Howard. I remember she's a Jewish lady. Yeah, I remember her. And then good old Anna Harrison popped in. Yeah, I guess. Wow, look at all this. There's like a Lance person here. Huh. Yeah, good old. Oh, man. Crap. What happened? Okay. I guess she didn't like that. Well, let's see. She's like, what? This is horrifyingly instructive. If this were my basic experience of Democrats, I would be what? A Republican? Maybe. In any case, I'm really sorry for what happened to you under Obamacare. I'm very grateful to you for acknowledging me in this kind way. All right, well, I guess she didn't take offense to that. She took offense to other things, maybe. All right. Well, let's go straight to their sharing of it then. Here's where it was. Oh, it's under discussion. Okay. Looks like it's 22 comments. Can I make this bigger?
Culture. As we look at our society today compared to 50 years ago or more, and some of us are quite well able to do that, you don't recognize the country. And it's really obvious that we're fighting an uphill battle. And many of
All right, don't worry. I'm going to get the sound.
Especially media.
Don't worry. I'm going to get the sound. Let me pause it. I got to pause this really quick. Because I just feel like this is too far away. Okay, bring in the speakers a little closer. Not sure if we can hear it.
Our guest today is having an impact in several of these mountains today in Southern California. First, let me say that he has served as a linguist in the United States Navy in Special Ops and Intelligence in Hawaii. And I think I can say he may have been focused on a specific Asian country. Hopefully I'm not revealing any secrets. His grandfather also served during World War II.
Yeah, it looked like maybe I was friends with her for a while or something. I can't remember this Angela lady. She sure is active.
And he's here with us today, as Jennifer mentioned. And we thank you so much, both of you, for your service to our country. More recently, our speaker has been in both in the trenches and operating behind enemy lines in the education realm.
thought I could add this to the story. Okay, never mind.
He serves as an adjunct professor of philosophy and ethics at many of our local colleges and universities, including Pepperdine, Cal Lutheran Universities, Cal State LA, or as he calls it, Cal State Los Angeles, Loyola Marymount, Northridge University, and Moorpark College, and I've probably forgotten some. And what a connection he's able to make with the students that he teaches. Sometimes he will broadcast some of his class sessions on his Facebook page, and he has a very unique ability to talk to millennials and Generation Xers. Is that right?
I think it's Z.
Z. Z, okay. But then I'm not in that generation. He has an MA from Claremont University in politics, constitutional law, political philosophy, and American politics. And he has a PhD in progress at the same institution in political philosophy, public law, and American politics. He also has master's degrees in bioethics and biblical studies. And I know I'm forgetting some. He has quite a few degrees.
All right. I'm going to start over just so I get the whole thing. Hope you don't mind. I'm going to start at the beginning for when. Now, right before this, Grandpa had given the Pledge of Allegiance, and it was quite a thing to see. It was great.
Government, family, business, arts and entertainment, and religion, or church and synagogue. And these are the areas that profoundly impact our culture. As we look at our society today, compared to 50 years ago or more, and some of us are quite well able to do that, you don't recognize the country. And it's really obvious that we're fighting an uphill battle in many of these mountains or areas of influence, especially media, education, and government. Our guest today is having an impact in several of these mountains today in Southern California. First, let me say that he has served as a linguist in the United States Navy in Special Ops and Intelligence in Hawaii. And I think I can say he may have been focused on a specific Asian country. Hopefully I'm not revealing any secrets. His grandfather also served during World War II, and he's here with us today, as Jennifer mentioned. And we thank you so much, both of you, for your service to our country. More recently, our speaker has been both in the trenches and operating behind enemy lines in the education mountain. He serves as an adjunct professor of philosophy and ethics at many of our local colleges and universities, including Pepperdine, Cal Lutheran Universities, Cal State LA, or as he calls it, Cal State Los Angeles, Loyola Marymount, Northridge University, and Moorpark College, and I've probably forgotten some. And what a connection he's able to make with the students that he teaches. Sometimes he will broadcast some of his class sessions on his Facebook page, and he has a very unique ability to talk to millennials and Generation Xers. Is that right?
I think it's Z.
Z. Z, okay. But then I'm not in that generation. He has an MA from Claremont University in politics, constitutional law, political philosophy, and American politics. And he has a PhD in progress at the same institution in political philosophy, public law, and American politics. He also has master's degrees in bioethics and biblical studies, and I know I'm forgetting some. He has quite a few degrees. I won't take the time to tell you about his PhD advisor, Michael Newman, but if you get to talk to him and you have the time, you might want to ask him about this very special man. That will give you an idea of the quality of the PhD that he is currently earning. With respect to his topic today, the Second Amendment, our speaker is trained to shoot by Navy SEALs. He was no stranger to firearms, but he ultimately learned to shoot by Navy SEALs. He's the founder of the Orange County Gun Owners Club, and he's active in local politics. He describes himself as an activist. Please help me welcome Lucas J. Mather.
Thank you, Stephanie. Stephanie and I have been Facebook friends for a while, and I've just now met her today. So thank you for inviting me, and it's wonderful to have my grandfather here, who's 97. You never know about him, and he's still got that full head of hair, and it's combed the same way as it's always been combed. Got enough hair to comb. So that's good news for me as far as my hair goes, I'm hoping. And it's wonderful to be here in the Conejo Valley and be part of your group. So I've been involved with this area of LA/Ventura County since 2005. When I started teaching at Moorpark College. My first class I taught there was symbolic logic. And I've been teaching there and then at Pierce College, so feeder schools for this area, Cal State Northridge, Pepperdine for a long time, over a decade at Loyola Marymount University, where I'm also a graduate. And yeah, so I would describe myself as an activist. People ask me if I'm a conservative, and what I find is that so many young people don't know what that means. Yeah. So I usually will answer the question in such a way that it prompts them to think about the words they use and why they use it, and just to start to think at all is the beginning of a new future for California. So what I usually say is, am I a conservative? I say, I'm not interested in conserving any of the harm that Democrats have done to the state of California. That's my answer to that. I'm not interested, thank you, yeah, I'm not interested in conserving any of the harm that the Democrats have done to the United States. And I'm dedicating my life to preventing the harm in the future as much as possible. And I know that Republicans have done some harm too. You know, we've all fallen short of the glory of God, right? We've all sinned, you know. But, so where I found myself in the trenches is in the classrooms. And I've taught 185 courses, mostly in logic, probably, and in ethics, political philosophy, constitutional law, and I have a lot of different stories from the classroom, but I could share a few of them for you. I'll do that a little bit later. But later in my teaching career, what I've done is I've gotten involved, really since 2016, I started getting involved in the Second Amendment community, and so a group of us founded Orange County Gun Owners, which is a sister organization to San Diego County Gun Owners, which is older than us. And so I'm an original board member of Orange County Gun Owners. We focus on local politics, local and county. So city council, county officials like Board of Education or supervisor, sheriff that we got in Orange County. They're issuing concealed carry permits like they've never done before in history. And we got... Okay, hold on a sec. Let me see if that was in the original. So city council, county officials like Board of Education or supervisor, sheriff that we got in Orange County. They're issuing concealed carry permits like they've never done before. Okay, this is before Bruin. It was in the original, it was part of the Facebook Live glitch, I guess. History, and we got them in there. And that's a wedge issue here for us. Talking about Don Barnes. Our plan, we now have Riverside County Gun Owners is now up and running, and San Bernardino County Gun Owners is up and running. Our plan has always been to circle LA. So guess who's coming next? Ventura is coming next. And so really, we're going to circle LA, and our plan is to take one of the major cities of California. Once you take one of the major cities of California, the whole thing changes for California, because the cities are running the state. You guys know that, right? That's why things are the way they are, to some extent. So that's what we're doing on the Second Amendment side of things, and we're focusing primarily on concealed carry. But one of the people in our group noted that this latest spat of gun laws that came out from Sacramento in the last couple of years, the people that were on board with that in Sacramento, I think there was like 18 of them that were really spearheading them, and 11 of them started at the city council level. So that's our, we thought, you know what, you gotta catch them early before they go to Sacramento. So that's our focus of our group, is education. A lot of this is ignorance with firearms. It's just basic ignorance. It's irrational fear. I could give you examples of what I mean by that. One example is there's a 10-day waiting period in California to buy a firearm. You might think, oh, that's a pretty good idea. There's no problem with that. Well, it's really irrational, because there's a 10-day waiting period because it's a cooling off period. You're supposed to be cooling off. But that 10-day waiting period is in place no matter how many firearms you already own. Think about that. No matter if you are a concealed carry holder. Now think about this. California has some of the most rigorous standards for concealed carry in the entire country. You go across the Colorado River over here. You guys know geography. You're not kids, so if you're kids, I'd have to explain. Colorado River's over. It separates Arizona from California. You go right over the Colorado River. As soon as you step just your big toe into Arizona, you can take that handgun. You can have it fully loaded. Boom, put it in your pocket. Constitutional carry. The Constitution. That's your concealed carry permit. You go back. You do the Michael Jackson moonwalk back. Felon. You're a felon. That's what we're talking about. That's a stark difference. So you can have a concealed carry permit in California, have the gun on you while you're buying the gun. You have to come back in 10 days. And they say, well, you have to run a background check. Let me tell you, if if you buy ammunition right now, you have to get a background check, and it's instantaneous. So don't give me that. Don't give me that. It's instantaneous. So if you're buying a little .22 rifle for your kid, which by the way you should, if you have a grandson or whatever, and that's a little cricket, a little single shot, and you have assault weapons at home that are legal and a gun on you, you have to wait 10 days for that little .22 cooling off period. And if you're buying an antique firearm in Fresno and you drive up there to Fresno, you got to come back in 10 days. So we're talking about driving, we're talking about using gas, we're talking about expenses and hassles. And if you don't come back within that 20-day window, you got to do it over again, and it costs money to do it. It costs $47. So a lot of this is pricing poor people out of firearms. That's what it's always been about for Democrats. They're really afraid of poor people having firearms. They're really afraid of people with dark skin having firearms. They're deathly afraid of that. And in those communities that are usually run by Democrats, the gun laws are the strongest. It's not an accidental correlation. So that's what we're involved with there. And I'm happy to say I think there's a lot of progress that can be made there. I'm an activist on concealed carry because it's an issue for women as well. And here we are at a women's club. So maybe I should say, first of all, that I'm not a woman. Just kidding. I know that you're waiting and you're wondering, are you a woman? What's going on with you? So I thought I would just say, yeah, I know that you're curious. So I just, I wanted to let you know that it is now official news that I'm not a woman, okay? But it is an issue for women. Concealed carry. Let me throw a little data at you. I'm not going to overwhelm you with data. But in Los Angeles, it is virtually impossible to get a concealed carry permit. You could be a model citizen. Your life could be in danger. You could live in a rough neighborhood, maybe. Or maybe you work in a rough neighborhood. Maybe you work in an area or at a time of day, because that's the only job you could get. That's just tough, and it's maybe scary for you. And if you put a gun in your purse, and you don't have that permit, you are a Eagle Scout. Just kidding. You are a felon. You are the worst kind of person, according to the state of California. Okay? And the sheriff is oftentimes the one that issues those permits. LA Sheriff just doesn't do it. I think there's a few hundred people with those permits in Los Angeles County. Think about all those people in Los Angeles County. How many people are in Los Angeles County? Millions. What do you think the racial and gender breakdown of those several hundred permits are?
White, male, and rich.
Yeah. Shocker. Shocker. Yeah, and if you're not in one of those, you play for the Lakers. Right? Or some other thing, right?
You own the Lakers.
In Orange County and other counties that are issuing, I've heard the statistics are as high as 40% are women, which is amazing. And I guarantee you that the data in LA County are not 40% women. The data I've seen are that where counties are controlled by Republican sheriffs and they issue concealed carry permits. Now they might not want to broadcast that they're Republican. I don't want to name any certain counties that I happen to know. But our I've seen is that the demographics are most proportional. So in other words, the people getting the concealed carry permits are roughly proportional to the population comparatively, with blacks, Latino, Hispanic, women, and so on and so forth, Asian. And that's what we really care. This is a civil rights issue, make no mistake about it. When the government punishes you for doing something that is really a right of yours to protect yourself, and when the government at the same time doesn't supply what they say they're going to supply, because they can't. The government is not that powerful. And by the way, thank God. They can't protect you all the time. Just look up Otis McDonald, black guy in Chicago. He wanted to have a gun for self-defense, lived in a rough neighborhood. The city police said you have to rely on the police for your protection. Which political party runs Chicago? Strong Republican presence there, right? Yeah. I don't think there's a Republican anywhere near that place. They don't allow it. This is what they're telling this black guy. You must rely on the police for your protection. He said it takes 20 minutes. You're as good as dead. They said it doesn't matter. If you get a gun, you are a criminal if you try to defend yourself from crime. There was a group called the National Rifle Association that came to his side and paid for his lawsuit against the city of Chicago. They unfortunately lost. Moment of silence. So they appealed to the circuit court and they lost again. Moment of silence. Fortunately, George W. Bush had won the election and appointed John Roberts and Judge Alito to the United States Supreme Court, making 5 members of that court interested in that case. Oh, interesting. They appealed to the United States Supreme Court. The United States Supreme Court said, sure, we'll hear that case. Democrat Chicago wants to prevent a black man from getting a gun. That's going to the Supreme Court. It was all Republicans. And Otis McDonald won. It's called McDonald versus Chicago. 2010. 5-4. All Republicans on the 5. Not a single Democrat has been on the right side of this issue in the federal courts. Besides, I looked up this one back in 2002. He was a federal judge in Texas, and he was appointed by Clinton, and he had the right answer one time. But that's about all I've ever seen on this one issue. And there's some Republicans that are on the bad side too. I think what happens is they get bit by a Democrat and they start saying Democrat things. I don't know, they want to fit in. And that's a very powerful impulse. Trust me, I'm on the campuses. I'm completely surrounded on the campuses when I'm walking on the campuses. And I understand. You want to fit in. I get it. I understand. So this is a civil rights issue. The Second Amendment is, I think, the crucial thing right now. One of the crucial things. I know there's other issues. We lost our health care to Obamacare. Thank you, Obama. Our premiums shot up so much we couldn't afford it. Do you know that everybody that I told on campus that story, all Democrats, every single one of them Democrats, not a single person apologized to me, besides one lady from New York. And Anna Harrison, if you're looking at this, thank you. Anna Harrison, tenured professor of theology at Loyola Marymount University, was the only Democrat that said, I'm sorry you lost your health care when you were priced out of health care when we tried to make the government so huge to run this thing, and it was crazy, it was so crazy. Okay, so I just wanted to point that out. That's a civil rights issue too. We are on the cutting edge of civil rights, and the thing is, the kids don't know about it. And they don't know about it unless you let them know about it. And that's my job. That's what I'm working toward. And that's what I think you were working toward. Do I have that right? Because I've been thinking about that topic as I've been listening to your conversations. And what I hear is, you guys are kind of an activist group. Is that right?
Yeah.
You're a working group. I've heard several people say today that when you guys got into this group, you were interested in this group just not because it's a club, but because you're doing stuff, right? You're engaging. Yeah, you're involved. I think that the next step is trying to figure out how to reach these young people, because they are the future of California. And I'm going to share a couple stories with you. I'm going to tell you, they can be reached. They really can be reached. I want to be encouraging to you. I know it's easy to get discouraged, and I want this to be an optimistic meeting. I think Republicans, just in general, tend to be negative and discouraged in California, for good reason. But I want to be optimistic here, because I really do believe that there's hope for California. I wouldn't be here doing this if I didn't believe that. I'll give you an example. I was teaching a constitutional law class at California State University, Fullerton, which is a big state school in Orange County. You guys know, right? About 10, 15 minutes north of Disneyland, roughly. And this is in the spring of 2018. So I was teaching the Bill of Rights. I was teaching the First Amendment. Thought I would start there. Just like how I grade, I roll dice. 66, okay, all right. That was a high score so far. I'm gonna get some water here. You'll get that joke and you won't be able to fall asleep at 3 a.m. Is this water or is this vodka? Bravo for you guys for coming out, by the way. I mean, everybody's so panicked. Did you know that panic divides almost exactly on political lines? Democrats are twice as likely to be panicked as Republicans. I think that's from Reuters. That's not me. That's like the mainstream media recognizing it. Well, anyway, we'll find out who's wrong, I guess. We all die. If we all die, I'll admit I was wrong. I'll admit it. That's the first time I made my grandpa laugh all day, so I'm enjoying that moment there. Going back to California State University, Fullerton. Wow, I'm getting my Cal States mixed up there. So, we just finished the First Amendment. It was early in the semester, and something happened that spring in 2018 in Florida. There was they call it a shooting. People call it a shooting. I don't call it a shooting, I call it murder, because we have a perfectly good word for it, murder. Shootings happen at shooting ranges, right? It's the same thing, right? Shooting. Every time a gun goes off, it's shooting. And it's active, by the way. It's active. Shooting. Most shooting that happens in the United States is perfectly legal and moral. It's involved in training, right? I call it murder because that means it's immoral, what's happening. It's not moral, it's immoral. So I call it murder. Anyway, so that just happened in Florida, and we just started the Second Amendment, and I'm their professor. And all those kids in Florida are getting their million Twitter followers, and that media hype of that situation, that horrible situation that people found themselves there in Florida. And I'm their professor. So I said, help me, Lord. Help me do this. I asked them, what do you think the solution is here? More gun control? About 80% said that sounds about right, yeah. 20% were skeptical. The 20% that were skeptical, probably the kids that had to grow up faster for being at home, something. That's my guess. So I just did my job. We read McDonald versus Chicago, case I just referenced. I showed them pictures of Otis McDonald so they could get a good look at it. I showed them footnote 20 in that. Just FYI, that background noise is original. This is Paso Robles. Where is this? Paso Robles. Doesn't say where. It was off the 101, Newberry Park or Thousand Oaks. I think it's called Paso Robles Country Club or something like that. I think there was a golf course there. Opinion, which talks about how the Ku Klux. I showed the 20% that were skeptical, probably the kids that had to grow up faster for being at home, something. That's my guess. So I just did my job. We read McDonald versus Chicago, case I just referenced. I showed them pictures of Otis McDonald so they could get a good look at it. I showed them footnote 20 in that opinion, which talks about how the Ku Klux Klan used to take guns from black people. In fact, Ku Kluxing was a verb. It meant to take the firearms from black people. That's what it meant. I noted that the language and the wording of the Second Amendment seemed to indicate that it was an individual right. And it had two things. It was a right of the people to keep and to bear two things: arms for self-defense. We read the dissents in those cases. We talked about both sides. I had students saying, Professor, what do you think the solution to gun violence is? I can talk like they talk. I usually don't, but I can fit in. What do you think the solution to gun violence is? What do you think the solution to active shooting is? Mass shooting.
Armed citizens.
Well, I just asked. I pointed out. What you're really talking about is, what you're really saying is, what is the solution to murder? That's really what the question is. Because if you phrase the question as the problem is shooting, well then the answer can't be shooting. You guys following this? You gotta teach logic. You gotta be careful with language. A lot of the left is controlling language and controlling how you talk. And if you don't think very carefully, it'll eventually mean that they're controlling how you think, or if you think. Does that make sense? As I asked my business students, does it make dollars? Because if it makes $1, it makes 100 cents. So it does make sense. So, yeah, what's the solution to murder? That's an age-old question. You know what people figured out a long time ago? If you fight back. mean, what a concept. If you fight back, or if they're worried you might fight back, that is a possible solution to murder, right? And I pointed out to those kids there at Cal State, there's no metal detectors here. There's nobody guarding you. If you're a concealed carry holder, which is now possible in Orange County, it is a state law that you cannot take that firearm onto a campus. Let's see if that was original. If you're so, yeah, what's the solution to murder? That's an age-old question. You know what people figured out a long time ago? If you fight back. I mean, what a concept. If you fight back. Or if they're worried you might fight back. That is a possible solution to murder, right? And I pointed out to those kids there at Cal State, there's no metal detectors here. There's nobody guarding you. If you're a concealed carry holder, which is now possible in Orange County, it is a state law that you cannot take that firearm onto a campus. You're a felon if you do that. So there's nobody protecting you here. We don't even have Disneyland security. We don't have anybody with a little walkie-talkie pretending like they're security. We don't even have that. Anybody can just walk onto this campus. This is not a fortress. This is a campus. Anybody can walk on here. And I'm a criminal if I defend myself? How's that make sense? Guess what? I did the survey again. It was 2080. They flipped. They flipped. And all they did was think about it and read the stuff. They had somebody as a professor who made them sit in the uncomfortable silence and to think about things that they never thought about before. So there is hope. These are Orange County kids. These are Los Angeles kids. There is hope. You can reach these kids. And you might think, well, what can I do? I'm not a professor. I don't have all the training. What can I do? Well, let's see. Still going? Okay, this is not I heard someone saying that was not original. Maybe you. That, and something you said really stuck with me. You said your son or daughter went off to college for 4 years. Maybe it was original. Hold on a sec. Maybe it was original to the recording. Facebook Live. I heard someone saying, those kids. There is hope. You can reach these kids. And you might think, well, what can I do? I'm not a professor. I don't have all the training. What can I do? Well, I heard someone saying, I think it was maybe you, that, and something you said really stuck with me. You said, your son or daughter went off to college for 4 years, started leaning left, and I said, that's a shocker, like glycerin tablets. And you said, 18 years. Well, let me tell you something. This is my reaction to that. The 18 years you spent raising those kids will always be with them. They will never leave them. There's nothing that college professors can do to ultimately unseat that. So don't discount that. So what I would say is, the way you can reach these kids is with tangible things. And this might make you feel a little bit uncomfortable, but if it doesn't make you feel uncomfortable, it might be just BS. Because sometimes the right thing is, you know, a little uncomfortable, right? So here's a thought that I have. Find the kids that are already doing the right thing on college campuses or in their high schools, if they exist, and they do, you just gotta find them. Reach out to them and say, is there anything that you need? You know, and I don't know what that is. You're gonna have to answer that question. But reaching out and saying, we want to be a source of support for you, and just see what the reaction is. It might be, these kids are punks maybe, I don't know, but you might find that there's avenues for growth that you never thought about before. And maybe invite one of those kids as a speaker, and then they might invite you as a speaker, or somebody that you know. And the next thing you know, you're making connections. And these kids know how to use social media because they're all over it, you know. They don't study their logic textbook, but they know how to use Snapple Chat. And so that is something you could do. I want to leave you with something that you could possibly do. And maybe be a source of encouragement for them, you know. Because these kids, I'm telling you, they're getting like in a washing machine, and they don't know up from down, and they're going to need help with basic things like just like how to live, you know, how not to go crazy. Maybe you can help them with that. So, does anybody have any questions? Yes?
I have one question and an observation.
How am I doing on time? Hold on, let me.
I think just the one question and then.
Just one more question, okay.
When obviously you're very knowledgeable in the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and the amendments are followed. And as I read through the Constitutional Bill of Rights and the amendments, I was thinking to myself, this is what the federal government has done to bring this country together as one union. And anything that's not described there in the Constitution is sent over to the states to make their choices. You're a very knowledgeable man. Can you name me one amendment or one Bill of Rights there that the states are allowed to alter other than the Second Amendment?
You mean alter just by like ignoring it, or
Changing it?
Go ahead.
If I go to Arizona and I can have right to bear arms, I can use my arms. I come into California, I can't have that unless I got a CCW with the permission of the government of the state of California. When in fact this is a federal issue, it's not a state issue. That is the only one that I can see as a Second Amendment that the states are mucking with and changing, and yet the NRA has not taken it to the Supreme Court basically to tell the states, this is not your domain, this is a federal domain. Stay out of it, you cannot change all the other things like freedom of speech, freedom of press, freedom of assembly, you go the list, but they loop around the Second Amendment. Why is the NRA not taking it on?
Well, I won't speak for the NRA because I can't, but what I've noticed is that that's what we're doing with Orange County gun owners, is that there's real limits to what each organization can do. I mean, I'm sure you're aware of the limits that you're able to do, right? They're able to do a lot, and I'm amazed they've been able to do so much. And I think just in general, there's a limit to lawsuits. I'm going to put that there. There's a limit to lawsuits. And they're very expensive. And it's one piece of the puzzle, right? So what we're doing is we're looking at grassroots stuff, really effective grassroots stuff, where we're changing hearts and minds at the local and county level. Because the reality on the ground is, given our heritage, that the states have taken themselves to be able to do that. So we have to counteract that somehow, and we can, I think, we can. Here in California, I think the best thing we can do is use the counties. The county sheriff is a constitutional office. They're not reportable to anybody else. They're elected directly by the people, and they have enormous power with respect to the Second Amendment. So that's a good thing. That's a good thing. By the way, the Democrats are aware of that, and they're trying to change it. I don't know if you know this. One of the things they want to do is they want to use the Department of Justice in Sacramento to now start issuing concealed carry permits and take that away from the sheriffs. And gee, I wonder what's going to be the result of that. Gee, I wonder what, you know, that'll be a real shocker. So it's got to be grassroots, and you got to get people engaged. Most people are not engaged in California. You might think it's just run by Democrats. Well, it is. It's in many ways, but most people are not engaged, and you have to just get them engaged. So I think last time I looked, it was 41% didn't vote. You know, well, who are those people? Well, they're probably, many of them are very independent-minded people. They don't like people telling them what to do. Does that sound like someone you know? Like when you look in the mirror. It's really hard to organize Republicans. Have you noticed that? I'm on the campuses. I see how these Democrats are. They're like sheep. Then someone points and they go, "There's 1,000 of them." You know? They point to the cliff, and then all the kids run off the cliff. And that's why talking to Republicans, and you know, you're talking for 5 minutes, you're already arguing about something. You know, so someone's got, I'm a libertarian. Tax credit, this and that. And so it's really hard to organize because we're so independent. That's why they win. They win because we're like that. So we got to work on that in our community. Don't change, but we do need to change. Does that make sense?
Can you stay and ask, because I know more people probably
Can I
have
stay?
questions. Can you stay and answer questions afterwards?
Sure.
In case people have
I'd be honored, and I'm deeply honored to be here, and I'm so grateful that you exist. Thank you so much. Wow. That was a great memory. I wish I could have gotten my grandpa on this. Friday, March 13th, 2020 in Conejo Valley. I think it was in Thousand Oaks or Newberry Park. It was right off it was west of the 101. So, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed backing this one up.